You think you're just swiping. Left, right, maybe a match, but what if I told you most dating profiles are psychological signals, not random, not accidental, signals, because long before someone speaks to you, long before the first message, their profile is already telling you who they are, and most people completely miss it. You don't fall for a narcissist on the first date. You fall for the profile. You don't ignore red flags in person first. You ignore them in photos, in bios, in tone. Tonight we're going to slow the swipe down, and we're going to decode it. I've analyzed hundreds of dating profiles over the years. Patterns repeat. Certain photo styles, certain phrases, certain emotional tones, and they often connect to deeper personality traits. Now let me be clear. A dating profile alone does not diagnose someone, but psychology leaves fingerprints, and profiles are curated versions of identity, which means what someone chooses to show and what they avoid showing is never random. By the end of this video, you'll never swipe the same way again. Have you ever matched with someone who seemed perfect online, confident, adventurous, emotionally intelligent, but within weeks, something felt off? Maybe the charm turned into control. Maybe the confidence turned into arrogance. Maybe the mystery turned into emotional unavailability. The shift rarely starts in person. It starts in the profile. We just don't know how to read it yet. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to rank real dating profile patterns into psychological tiers. Not to shame, not to attack, but to understand. From subtle red flags to high-risk manipulation signals to surprisingly healthy green flags, we'll look at photo patterns, bio language, emotional tone, self-presentation strategies, and what they might psychologically signal. And yes, all profiles will be anonymous and blurred, because this isn't about people, it's about patterns. Some of what you're about to see is subtle, some of it is uncomfortable, and one category in particular is responsible for more emotional confusion than almost anything else in modern dating. Let's start with the profile type that looks confident but often hides something deeper. Before you even read his bio, your nervous system already reacted. Pilot, dentist, Tony Stark, ambition, precision, refusal to live small. At first glance, this looks impressive, but impressive and emotionally available are not the same thing. Let's slow this profile down, because this one is interesting. He relates to Tony Stark. Now that choice is not random. Tony Stark represents high intelligence, wealth status, ego genius, with an edge energy. When someone aligns themselves with that archetype, they're signaling, I identify with competence, power, and exceptionalism. That can be attractive, but here's the subtle question. Is he signaling depth or dominance? Notice the phrase, a refusal to live small. That's ambition-driven language. Ambition is healthy, but when ambition becomes identity, relationships can become performance arenas. In psychology, when someone heavily anchors identity to achievement and status, there's often strong self-concept, high standards, low tolerance for emotional chaos, which can be stabilizing or rigid. Now look at the recurring theme: smooth landings, open highways, booking the next trip before the current one ends. Pilot at heart. This is novelty-seeking language. Psychologically, novelty-seeking personalities often crave stimulation, move quickly, get bored easily, prefer momentum over stillness. For some women, this feels exciting. But if you're someone who values emotional consistency, this type can sometimes struggle with slow intimacy. The key isn't whether he travels, the key is, does he also show emotional grounding? Now this part is actually strong. Respect my ambition. Match my energy. Bring curiosity, depth over drama, real conversation. This is healthy signaling. He's asking for depth, emotional maturity, conversation, long-term relationship. That's green. Also, kindness, loyalty, long-term. Those are stability markers. This is not a chaotic profile. It's structured. So psychologically, where does this land? This is not an S-tier manipulator profile. This is not aggressive dominance signaling. This looks like a high-functioning, high-competence, identity-driven personality. The risk? If someone's identity is built heavily around performance and ambition, they may unconsciously evaluate partners through that same lens. The upside? Clear goals, stability, direction. The question for you isn't, is he good or bad? The real question is, does his energy match yours? Because confident ambition feels safe only when emotional depth matches it. Next profile shifts in a very different direction. Less achievement signaling, more subtle control cues. Let's look at that one. Now this one feels different. No Tony Stark energy, no status flex, no power language. Instead, kayaking, quiet weekends, making dinner, HGTV in the background. At first glance, this feels safe, but safe doesn't always mean simple. Let's slow this profile down, because this one is subtle. My simple pleasures, that phrase alone tells you something. People who frame life around simple pleasures are often low sensation-seeking, comfort-oriented, routine-friendly, emotionally steady. Notice the repeated theme: nature or big cities, quiet weekends, no plans. This signals flexibility without chaos. It's not adrenaline-driven identity, it's regulated identity. Psychologically, this often correlates with lower impulsivity, higher predictability, preference for calm environments. For someone anxious in relationships, this kind of profile can feel extremely grounding. Getting on the water in my kayak. This is important. Kayaking is solitary but peaceful. It's not party boat. It's not status signaling. It suggests comfort with solitude, self-regulation, internal calm. Men who genuinely enjoy solo outdoor activity often have higher emotional tolerance for silence. That's a green flag. Now this line is interesting. My personal hell is awkward situations and small talk, anything labeled a meeting. This suggests mild social fatigue, possible introversion, dislike for forced performance. He's not saying I hate people, he's saying I don't like artificial interaction. That's actually emotionally honest. But here's the nuance. If someone strongly avoids small talk, they may also struggle with conflict navigation, because early-stage conflict often feels awkward. So the question becomes, is this emotional maturity or conflict avoidance? You'd need conversation to know. Making dinner at home, quiet evening, HGTV. This is nesting energy. This is routine energy. This profile screams, I want stability. He explicitly says, long-term relationship, life partner, humor, kindness, loyalty, no ambiguity. This is not a chaotic attachment style signal. This leans secure or avoidant leaning secure. Compared to the last profile, Profile 1, equal sign, high performance identity. Profile 2, equal sign, high stability identity. This one is not flashy. But flashy doesn't build long-term safety. The only potential risk here, if you are highly stimulation-driven, this energy might feel slow. But if you value consistency, this profile reads emotionally safer. Next one shifts again. This time the signals get more mixed. And mixed signals are where psychology gets interesting. This is the profile that sounds perfect. Honesty, integrity, mental health, mindfulness, internal peace, emotional intelligence. On paper, this looks evolved. But here's the question no one asks. Is this emotional depth or emotional branding? Let's slow this one down, because this is where psychology gets layered. My real-life superpower is honesty, integrity. When someone labels themselves with virtues instead of showing them, that's interesting. Secure people usually demonstrate honesty through behavior. They don't market it. Now, this doesn't mean it's fake, but self-declared moral identity can sometimes signal strong need to be perceived as good, image consciousness, identity built around values that can be healthy, or it can be compensatory. The key difference? Consistency over time. Tapping into my subconscious mind, spiritual, mindfulness, happiness, and internal peace. This is emotionally aware language. But here's the nuance. When someone leads heavily with emotional growth vocabulary, there are two possibilities. Option 1, they've done the work. Option 2, they've learned the language. There's a difference. Emotional fluency doesn't automatically equal emotional availability. Some people use psychological language to avoid real vulnerability. It sounds deep, but it stays surface level. Now look at the structure. Project manager, University of Toronto, long-term relationship, optimism, gratitude, emotional intelligence. This profile blends structure and softness. That's attractive. But here's the tension. If someone highly values internal peace, they may also avoid emotional disruption. And relationships require disruption. Growth requires friction. So the real question becomes, can this person handle conflict, or do they spiritually bypass it? Profile 1 represents a performance-driven identity. Profile 2 represents a stability-focused identity. Profile 3 represents a consciously branded identity. Out of the three, this is the most verbally evolved profile. But evolved language is not the same thing as evolved behavior. The green flag here is that he values connection and emotional awareness. The yellow flag is that his self-description leans heavily on ideals rather than examples. And that matters, because the only real way to understand this type of personality is to ask direct emotional questions early. Then watch carefully how he responds. Does he stay grounded? Does he become defensive? Does he get vague? Because real depth does not live in carefully chosen words. Real depth shows up under pressure, not in the bio. And now you've seen 3 psychological archetypes on dating apps. The high performer, the grounded stabilizer, the conscious idealist. Next, we're going to break down how to quickly test which one you're actually dealing with. Because attraction is fast, but psychological compatibility is patterned. Now I want to ask you something. When you swipe, what are you actually reacting to? Confidence, calm energy, spiritual language, ambition, or are you reacting to your own attachment pattern? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't just choose profiles. We choose familiar emotional dynamics. The performer attracts the anxious. The stabilizer attracts the overwhelmed. The conscious idealist attracts the hopeful healer. So the real question isn't which one is better. The real question is which one triggers something in you, and why. If you found this breakdown useful, we can turn this into a weekly series. Every week, 3 new profiles, real examples, blurred identities, pure psychological analysis, no judgment, just patterns. If you want that, tell me in the comments. And next time you swipe, slow down. Because profiles don't just reveal them, they reveal you.